I had a dream. So in this dream, yes, I'm in university, and we have a class. And it's a class. It's a class that's about something. And we have like an assignment, and they put the sheet up for everyone to see, kind of thing. Okay. So my sister, my sister by birth, she also attends this class. And somehow I know that she's in the building. She's about to come up, and she's going to come up with her dog. And I know her dog in real life. Her dog's like a golden doodle, very, small and whatever, right? Like Hazel, and she's fine, very cute, loving, sweet dog. Anywho, in this dream, I think my sister has something that looks a bit more like a golden retriever. So it's bigger, but still goldeny. But somehow I was expecting this dog to be threatening for some reason. So, she's in the building, she's coming up the stairs or elevator, what have you. And I know she's going to be bringing this dog with her. It's funny because last night when I was consciously awake, I was thinking about a visit that I'm about to have with her. And I was thinking about whether or not she would be bringing a dog with her. Isn't that weird? But it was just a fleeting thought. And here I am having a dream, and the dream is representing something different. Okay, so she brings the dog upstairs, and I'm looking at the dog, and I'm just waiting for the dog to try and bite me or something. I'm scared. I'm afraid. This dog's gonna bite me. Again, that's interesting because sometimes I have this sort of kind of general fear that sits over me where I'm afraid that something's going to harm me. It's a strange sort of compulsive thing. Anywho, so that's what's happening in the dream. But I kind of compose myself and I wait for it to come, and I'm just watching the dog and I'm just waiting. And when the dog comes over, I don't remember what happens, but the dog isn't hurting me. It comes close to me, and I think we make some sort of contact, but the dog's not hurting me. And it's like the dog is kind of just sitting there. And I'm happy. I'm elated. There is some sort of contact, though. I don't know, with their paw, with the dog's two front paws or something. But I'm ecstatic. I'm super happy. I'm like, whoa, this dog is not hurting me. This is a cool dog, dude. We're cool, And then other things happen in the dream that I've forgotten. But then, now all of a sudden I'm in a situation where there's another dog that's coming, a dog that looks much more threatening. But I'm not afraid, because I'm like, nah, dogs are cool. But someone else is afraid, and I'm like, oh man, it's about to pop off in here, because if she gets really scared, it's funny. Well, maybe I should have had the faith that this person would be able to kind of turn things around the way I had. But anyways, I didn't. I was like, if this person gets scared, then the dog's going to freak out and going to try and protect itself, and then maybe this dog's going to bite the person. So I was, anxious in this dream. So this dog comes up with, its protector, its guardian, the human being. Its caretaker, let's say. Anyways, so the dog comes up, and I'm trying to mitigate things. I think I'm saying, hey, this dog is so cool, kind of bringing the dog to where I am. Don't look at the other person kind of thing. And then when the dog comes to where I am, I think the person starts freaking out for my sake. And I'm just like, no, it's okay. And the dog sits on me. It's funny. I've had other dreams where I'm afraid of a dog, and the dog ends up biting me or hurting me, kind of. and I have to kind of get the dog away from me. That's typically how the dreams go. But in this dream, there are two dogs, and they're both so cool. This one sits on me, and I'm just like, this is so funny, this is so funny. And I'm kind of greeting the dog, like, hey, what's good? You know, oh, you're sitting on me. Okay, I see. And so I readjust myself, and we're just both chilling there together, and it's really sweet. Then finally, we're going down the stairs, or I always say stairs. I don't know. It could have been an elevator for all I know, but we've come down somehow, like from the top of the building to the main floor level, and I'm explaining to the person, I think both of the caretakers, how wonderful their dogs are, and and I'm explaining to the person who's still kind of afraid of dogs, like, no, these dogs are great. You shouldn't be afraid of dogs. Dogs are wonderful. It's just about how you are with them. Yeah, that's what I'm kind of doing. Then the last part of the dream, somehow I'm back in the classroom, and there's a woman. It's weird because it's a woman who is with, interesting. Whoa. Okay. Something just dawned on me again, because when I woke up, my first thought was like, man, I am rejuvenated. Okay. Because I felt so dysregulated before I slept, but we'll get into that in a second. Okay. This all has to do with astrology, I promise. Okay. But, yeah, because when I woke up, my first thought was about these two people. This is very interesting. Okay. So anyways, the last part of my dream, I'm back in the classroom. The coursework is kind of up on the screen. And I'm like, oh, I already did this assignment. I'm trying to find it, and I can't really find it. I'm like, whoa, but I know I did it. So that's kind of weird. But also, I don't understand what that part means. But it's a woman. She's got reddish hair. And she's with a dude. And the dude is the teacher. I don't really like the teacher. They're both they're both teachers kind of, but she's not really so much a teacher. But she's kind of there helping him out. Wait, this is kind of weird. Okay. And he is kind of stern and serious and a little bit domineering. And she's just being very passive and very helpful kind of thing. Kind of going with his stuff. I don't know, it has that kind of vibration, you know, where a woman is kind of catering to a guy, but like for no reason, you know? It's like that kind of thing. And he has this stern expression, like, I'm the man, you know? It was kind of like, whoa, ooh, what is this? And I adjusted, it's funny, and then I adjusted the camera screen because I thought she'd done something weird to mess it up. So I adjusted and I move it towards the left. And it looks better all of a sudden. Does it? I think that's what happens. And then a woman asks a question. Her screen doesn't look as good. Whoa, her screen doesn't look as good. This woman's in a black body. And she's kind of fidgeting with her mic. And yeah, her screen isn't white balance and all this stuff. Like, you can tell that she's kind of like a beginner or an amateur. This is a course that has to do with cameras and stuff like that. So she asks her question, and she's like, oh, well, I don't really know what to do. But, like, she's kind of laughing about it. She's being patient with herself. And then the woman with the red hair is like, oh, my God, yeah. Like, she's kind of being relatable. And then now they're kind of... it's really the woman with the red hair who's kind of, I guess, speaking to her, kind of. So it's, I don't know, like, as I'm saying it, it's interesting because it seems that what looked, I don't know, it looked strange first because it looked like a misogyny kind of thing. But then I see that the red-haired woman is being a helper towards and she's a young woman also, the young woman in a black body, and being a supporter. But I was being critical initially of the the red-haired woman, and the man. But then I think I appreciate her more when I see how she is with the student. It's weird because last night I felt I was trying to do this podcast for the Beautiful Podcast, and I felt there's so many levels to this dream, because every aspect of a dream has to do with you, no? Like, it is you. It's what they say. It represents you, a part of you. And I've had issues with, domineering men, okay, whatever. But, it just is what it is. And it's not like I'm a victim, but, I've had that issue, okay? Everyone has different karmas, different issues. And obviously I'm in a black female body, okay? So, and I've also had the issue of feeling less than others. Just to be frank, I have had that, and I continue to. And everyone has these different issues, but they play out in different ways. So I've experienced these two issues, these two sensations, feelings that I felt in the dream as I was watching. That's interesting. And I wasn't a detached observer initially, but then my vision flips and I become more of a detached observer towards the end when I shift the camera and I look at both women differently. Isn't that interesting? What does that mean exactly? What does that mean? I don't know. Maybe it'll start to settle. But anyways, so last night I'm trying to do this episode because I'm like, man, I didn't post anything last week. I can't afford not to post anything this week for the sake of consistency, right? But I kept getting interrupted, and I was feeling like, oh man, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. I went into that space where it's like, first, maybe I shouldn't be shooting this episode because I'm not in the right space of mind. But then it goes into, maybe I shouldn't be doing this at all. And then I have to talk myself out of it. Like, Ruby, it's okay, dude. Like, you're doing this for yourself. It's helpful for yourself. There was an astrologer that I spoke to who was kind of confirming that creativity is very important in my life. It sounds like I'm saying my therapist says, I'm doing that thing. And you know how they say that on a full moon, people go, I wish I could whistle. I would do the whoo-hoo, when people whistle like that. Yeah. And I get that because I do. And women get begin their menstrual cycles in full moons, or new moons when they're kind of going with the moon, and I think I was getting signals yesterday that it's okay. Yeah, I was getting signals that it's okay that I am someone who needs to rest, recharge, rejuvenate. It's funny, rejuvenation was a big part of meditation class this morning. That was a big topic. Isn't that beautiful? Newness and rejuvenation was a big part of meditation class this morning. But I feel like I've been getting these signals, the senses internally that it's okay that I accept that I'm not someone who can just go, go, go. It's not funny. I mean, and honestly, human beings in general can't just go, go, go as far as I understand. But myself specifically, I'm someone who's not able to do that. I'm someone who has the moon in the 12th house with the whole sign house system. And someone who has the moon in the first house in Pisces, okay? Double whammy in the Placidus or Coke, those kind of house systems. Quadrant-based house systems. But, I'm a sensitive person. I just am. I'm a sensitive person. I pick up so much, and it's so easy for me to experience this feeling of being trained. Coupled with that, the third thing on top of that is that Neptune right now is kind of hovering over my ascendant. So I'm like, oh my goodness. It was just like, I'm feeling so drained, you know. And I also have Uranus. Uranus is in my 12th house, and I'm in my whole signs as well. And quadrant-based house system also. It's co-present with my moon. But yeah, and so there was like this feeling like it's okay that, like it's okay that I run, that I have the feeling to run, you know, because it's coming from something. It's telling me something about myself. And I think it's telling me that I don't take enough care of myself in, first off, recognizing that I'm someone who gets drained more easily than others, which is okay. Everyone's got something, right? And another part of meditation class this morning, every actor is unique. No two actors, you know, souls and bodies, can play the same parts. And even the parts that I played in previous lifetimes cannot repeat now. This is a brand new part for me, brand spanking new. Everything's new, right? And the past cannot really repeat. It will be different in some way or another. It will be. That's facts, that's life, that's truth. And there was this feeling about kind of like the difference between truth and what's real. You know what I mean? Like there's what's real, what's happening, sure thing, you know. It's a material world. But then like there's truth, and sometimes truth lives in, we could say, the margins. Sometimes truth lives in the opposite. It's very Jupiter and Gemini. You know, the fabric of truth, where multiple points, multiple viewpoints all coalesce to be part of this multifaceted jewel or diamond, you know, crystallizing as understanding, as truth. Like that's truth, right? Like something that's unchanging and eternal, where all of the little smaller points of reality, because that's a very mercurial thing. You know, Mercury is the merchant. Mercury is the one who trades, you know, and gets things done. It's very much about the day-to-day, jack of all trades. You know, Mercury is about details of things and understanding how things work, because I've broken them down, I've deconstructed them, and I've watched them. I've seen them move. You know, these smaller points of reality of what happens. It's very much observable with Mercury. Whereas with Jupiter, it's experiential, it's understanding, and it speaks to the bigger, larger picture. It speaks to the fabric. You know, we think about Jupiter and Saturn, they're on the outer, you know, boundaries of our sky. In ancient times, those were the furthest, most distant planets we could see without a telescope. And so it speaks to the whole, the collective. Not to talk about the transpersonal planets. That's another conversation, right? But this is interesting because now I'm thinking about that dream I had. And I feel like the woman with red hair and the woman in a black body, it's interesting because physically they're actually opposing. People with red hair tend to be very, very like pale, which is cool. And then people in black bodies tend to be, you know, dark, although of course there are shades when it comes to people who are in black bodies, right? Anyways, so they represent these two opposite ends of the color spectrum in terms of skin tones. Isn't that interesting? And I feel like they represent Jupiter. And I feel like the man represents Mercury. Isn't that interesting? Because I've got a Virgo sun that I do not relate with. Yeah, you know, obviously I use it and I can see my Virgo express itself. But I relate really heavily with the Pisces. I feel like sometimes when I go into mask mode, I'm going into Virgo Libra. But when I'm kind of being myself, I'm more, interestingly enough, Pisces Libra, Moon Libra, more Cancerian energies flowing. Anywho, Virgo's ruled by Mercury, Pisces ruled by Jupiter. Isn't that interesting? So it's like in the dream, I was both the red-haired woman and the woman in the black body, as the moon, Pisces. And in the dream, the man was my son. He was very mercurial. I say this because when I woke up, I had a thought about how men don't see things the way women see them. How a full moon, the fact that there are more women, I presume, on the planet who recognize that on a full moon, people are gonna act crazy, because it's just how it is. We're people, and we're connected with this world that we're living in. Our internal states of experience and being and seeing, like all of that is projected externally. So naturally, there's something that this full moon is telling us about our own selves, right? But men don't see like that. Of course, there are men who see like that and women who don't, and vice versa. But I think you understand my meaning here. It's more of a feminine sort of understanding about the world, whereas the more masculine, but really men, I'm saying, they don't see the world that way. They see it as a very mercurial place where it's broken, let's fix it. It's very much about what's happening, and what I see happening with my eyes versus what's happening inside, what I feel. So the man was Mercury, and the two women were Jupiter. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. And today there's a Jupiter-Mercury opposition. Jupiter and Gemini, Mercury and Sag. Adam Ellenboss was speaking about how this is a mutual reception by detriment. Mutual reception is when two planets are in each other's home sign or even exaltation sign. And because of that, there's some sort of cooperation happening between the two planets to help them navigate the waters, to help the other navigate the strange waters that the other finds itself in. So it's this beautiful dance of cooperation. And here he's saying the same thing's happening, but through detriment, because they're both in each other's, is it the fall? I'm not certain, to be honest. But they're in two signs that they're highly uncomfortable in. It could be the fall or the detriment. I think it's detriment for both, but I gotta check that out. But they're helping each other out because both of those signs are like each other's home. There's cooperation. Even though there's some sort of tension, in some sense, like some sort of argument, there's cooperation. And I had to sleep for 4 hours today. I had to break off an engagement. I was supposed to do something today, and I felt guilty too, because I was like, well, Rubes, you're not sick, physically speaking. You're not this, you're not that. You gotta go in and fulfill this obligation. But something was telling me, I don't think you should do that. I don't think you should do that. And I was like, nah, I think I should do that. It's an obligation, and I was doing that thing. Jupiter and Capricorn. And Jupiter and Capricorn being my chart ruler. There's tension between Jupiter and Saturn. Doubt and faith. But I decided to listen to the part of me that said I needed to rest. And even as I, sent out messages, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's so late. No, I don't want them to dislike me. And I saw something on the internet that was speaking about how shoulds, quote unquote should, holds us back from making the right decision. And then that gave me a bit of peace about it. And then I slept. I feel so much better. I really, really needed it. I didn't even realize those 4 hours. I feel like the last 2 weeks have been so uncooperative with my own self because somehow I wasn't giving myself the rest and care I needed. It only took 4 hours. But hey, I needed to be ready for it, so I can't be down on myself. I'm happy that at least I see this. Rest and rejuvenation is very important for the soul. I can't function if I'm not regulated internally, and sleep helps a lot to regulate me. And in terms of shoulds, there's the should of societal pressure, the pressure I put on myself. While other people can go to work 9 to 5, 5 days a week, that kind of thing. And here I am, not living that sort of lifestyle at all, and feeling guilty and ashamed about it. And there's only one person that I got the chance to speak with who, maybe two, there are two people who both supported me in having to transition into this space. I've worked for really, 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 well, for someone my age anyways, I'm almost 30, but I've worked for a long period of time in my life, and as a Virgo sun, and Virgo in the 6th house, and some house systems, working and doing helps me feel valuable. I've got a moon sun opposition, and so when I move into this Piscean space, there is this sort of baggage of guilt I carry over from the Virgo sun, and anxiety, right? Jupiter expanding that mercurial anxiety of Virgo about working. Why aren't you working? You gotta work, you gotta work, you gotta do something, you gotta earn, and I've just been dragging myself. But at least today in this moment I can see that I've been asked to be patient over this transitional period, especially this period when Neptune's right on my ascendant, in understanding that I don't understand. I don't know why things are happening, and letting things unfold as they will over time. Understanding that I don't understand, and trying to figure it out. That's not the way that I should be understanding. That's not the way to understand this, to understand myself. It requires patience, because it requires stillness, it requires depth, and it requires experience. All very Jupiterian, this type of understanding. It's not the understanding so that I can fix it, put a band-aid on it, move on. It's the understanding of it. It's not knowledge in that kind of way. It's depth and understanding of that knowledge. But it's not something that's figured out. It's something that's realized. It's something that comes to me, or I come to it. It's like, what is it? What do the people do when you mix the milk or something? What, I'm trying to do an analogy that I'm not understanding because I've never done this. But what is it? Like you're supposed to mix the milk, and then what is the buttercream floats to the top or something like this? Buttermilk. You make butter, but the buttermilk, it just settles, it just comes to the top. You can't necessarily, I don't think that you can see that happen, but whatever rises to the top, it's risen. It's been experienced, over time. It was gradual. It's a process. It takes time to be realized. That's very Jupiter square Saturn, isn't it? The struggle, but eventually something's been learned, something's been gained over time, but we didn't see it. And that's what this whole thing feels like it's about. Letting go of that control and letting the truth come to me. Because it's that whole process that's teaching me something much more deep than I could have ever fathomed in my limited awareness or consciousness, which is fine. This is good. I'm happy. Father Time is holding my hand, huh? Yeah, it's sweet. It's sweet. I'm being taught a lesson as a child of the one true Father, Shiv Baba, God. Yeah, I'm so protected, I'm so safe, and I value this time. And opportunity rises, opportunity strikes, and I see things, I feel things differently now because of that time. The more patient I can be, maybe the lesson will rise to the top quicker because there's not as much pushback or friction against its job, its duty to be realized, to be seen, just to be. It's duty just to be. And I'm so happy and fortunate for this. And these are the moments that build and strengthen my faith and my courage in the face of storms and obstacles, the storms and obstacles of doubt, in the face of finding faith, needing to find faith, finding faith, truth, being with the truth, the underlying truth that I cannot see unless I'm patient and I'm open to see. Oh, it's beautiful. The depth. There's this story that I got to watch on YouTube. It was like a short story, bibliophile. Anyway, that's the name of the channel. And it's called The Necklace. And I'm going to spoil it here, which is fine. It's a short story and it's very good. And there's this woman. That's so interesting. Because I'm just going to preface this by saying that in meditation class, oftentimes, there's made a reference to a queen who wears a necklace. And hey, she's a queen, so it's going to be a really pretty, lovely necklace, right? And it's called like her necklace of peace. And of course, this necklace of peace is around her neck, but she forgets. And then she gets all, oh my gosh, like squirrely, running around like, oh my God, where's my peace? Where's my peace? But she forgets that she's a queen and the necklace of peace is around her neck, sitting right there, okay? Anyways, with this story called The Necklace, there's a woman, it's France. I think it's France in the medieval period or Renaissance or, something like that, 1400s kind of vibe. Okay. This woman is married to a clerk. This woman is, physically speaking, a very beautiful woman. And, she's always had these fantasies. She's always been very covetous about having fine clothing, fine jewels, like being one of those really noble ladies. But she's married a clerk. She lives in a house. She has I don't know, like people who live in the house who help her out, people who serve the family. So people who help with cleaning, people who go to the market, people, I don't know if she has someone who cooks, but I think someone even cooks. So it's not like, and physically speaking, not too shabby, And she's married to a clerk. He's someone who understands numbers and figures. Like the way that the story spoke about it, to me, I just equated it to him being an accountant, okay? And there's some sort of royal ball or something happening where the clerk managed to get 2 tickets. It sounds like he wants to take her to a Taylor Swift concert. That's what I'm setting up here, okay? But anyway, so there's this ball, and he manages to finagle 2 tickets, and he comes home with it because he's trying to make her happy, And he's thinking she's going to be so excited when he shares the news. And she's like, okay, whatever, And he's like, what? And she's like, oh, well, don't you know? I don't have anything that I could wear to this ball, I'm going to look silly if I just wear my church dress or something. And he's like, oh, but I like that church dress. It's so nice. And she's like, no, 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 these are fancy people. I can't just wear that kind of thing. And he's like, all right, so if you needed a dress, how much would that cost, right? Because he's an accountant. And she's like, oh, I know this guy, he's stingy. So she can't make the number too high that he's like, yeah, out of the question, boo. But she's also not going to make it too low because she's trying to, get something that's of a certain look, of a certain ilk of a dressing quality and such. Physically speaking, that is. And so she's like, maybe 400 francs. And my G turns white, like she sees it. The blood drips out of his face, because he's like, oh man. But she didn't know that he'd been putting away specifically that amount of money, saving it over, I think, like a year's period. 400 francs because of some sort of shooting trip that he wanted to take with his friends where they shoot larks. I don't know. It's the medieval period in Europe. Like, this is what people did, right? Okay. Anyways. And he's like, okay, sure thing. We'll do it, boo. And she's all like, oh, great. So we can see that he does this beautiful thing to kind of help her out. His wife, he wants to make her happy. Okay, so she goes out, she gets the dress, beautiful. And then she comes back, she's sulking again. He's like, what is up, girlfriend? And she's like, well, I don't have any jewels to wear with this. I'm going to stick out like a sore thumb. And he's like, well, you have a friend. Like, just go borrow jewelry from that lady who's a friend of yours. She's like, okay, true. So she goes to borrow the jewelry. And so she goes to look at the friend's wardrobe for, like, all her jewels. And this woman's eyes are so big. She's like, wow, that one's beautiful, that one's beautiful. But finally her eyes land on this really gorgeous necklace. She's like, can I just get that one? That's all I want. And the woman's like, yeah, sure, go ahead, borrow it. She's like, okay, great. So she runs home with it, holding it really tight, not wanting to let it out of her sight. And then the ball comes around. And, like we said, this woman's very beautiful, physically speaking. So she's wearing the gown, she's wearing the necklace, and she's like, wow, I look great, like $1 million. And they get to the ball, and, everyone's eyes are on her. Men want to be acquainted with her. They're asking, who's that lady? And, all this kind of thing, right? And she's like, oh, yay, because this is what she wanted. And then it's like the end of the ball, and her husband's there. And he's like, okay, great, you had a good time, I'm happy. He's so sweet. He brings a little cloak for her. But she kind of shakes it off because she's seeing all these fanciful rich ladies putting, cloaks of fur and tang over themselves. And she just has this cloak that looks like the cloak of someone who's not very wealthy. So she shakes it off, and then they go outside. It's like kind of like catching a taxi cab or something, or an Uber, I guess. They're trying to catch a carriage thing, and then they have to walk down different streets, and they finally, it's not even a carriage, it's some sort of, I don't know, some sort of transportation mode that people who aren't wealthy would use. They hop into that, and she's just feeling the weight of not being a fanciful lady. They get out of the cab, everyone's home, and she's like, oh, sighing, it was so beautiful. She's looking at herself in the mirror like, oh man, I am so beautiful, and now the night's over, I was so beautiful. She notices the necklace is missing. Tells the husband, he's a good husband, bro. Like, he goes out there, it's like 4 a.m. My G is walking through the streets, okay, trying to find that necklace because it's missing. She feels so anxious about it. And they send a message to the friend, hey, don't worry, the necklace we're just cleaning it for you, as they look for it. But they can't find it, bro. After weeks, they can't find it. And so now he's like, well, let's go and try and see if we can buy it without your friend knowing. So it's funny, it's a very Jupiter Mercury story as well, because of the cleverness, behind closed doors. So they go out, they go to all these different jewelers trying to find the right thing, and then they find one that they think looks really quite similar. And the husband is like, how much is it? And the person who sells it says, yo, it's 40 francs, G, like 40,000 francs. And he's like, holy guacamole. So they basically borrow money from all sorts of people where they're going to be indebted for who knows how long, just to pay for this necklace. They buy the necklace, and they put it into the box. And that's what the woman gives to her friend, hoping that her friend won't even open the box. And the friend doesn't. She just kind of gives it to her and runs away. And they spend the next 10 years paying this off. They dismiss all of their, all the people who are helping to serve in their household, people who go to the grocery, people who, I'm assuming, cook, people who clean. All of them are gone. And the woman now becomes that woman. She becomes the every woman, you know? She is the one who's scrubbing the floors, doing this, doing that. The husband's working all hours, all right? All hours, extra shifts. For 10 years they're doing this. And at the end of it, the woman looks changed. She's not as beautiful and lovely and polished as she looked before. Her hands are hardened with the work of the working class woman. You know, her face, you know, it looks different. Everything looks different. She looks like a much more rough woman. Her clothes are rougher and her mannerisms are rougher because she's an every woman now. She goes to the market. She's the one who haggles for a good price, all of that. Okay. And there's one day, this is like 10 years later, she sees that same friend that she lost touch with, that lady friend. And she goes up to the lady friend, says, hello, do you remember me, kind of thing, madame, whatever. And the woman's like kind of a little freaked out because this is a woman who is of a different class to her in her mind, right? A woman she doesn't know. Who is this rough woman? She's like, oh, no, you must be mistaken, madame. She's like, no, it's you, homie. I'm speaking as if they said things like that, but you know what I'm saying, right? They're having this conversation. And the woman who spent all that time paying back the 40,000 francs with her husband, she says, I am so-and-so. The woman's like, it cannot be. No, madame such and such. She's like, oh, no, poor madame such and such. You look so different. Life has really changed you. You know, that's what the woman's saying, the lady friend. And she's like, you know what? I did my due. I did what I had to do. I've served my time, my 10 years. And think about the type of woman this is, right? This is someone who was so attached and attracted to looking a certain way and wanting so badly to be wealthier in a different position in society than she was in terms of status, right? She's like, yo, I'm gonna just tell you the story. And she tells her the story. She says, we spent 10 years paying off that necklace for you, kind of thing. And the woman, the lady friend, gets this smile on her face. She's like, interesting. Girl's like, what? And she's like, well, actually, interestingly enough, that necklace that I guess you lost, it was actually only worth 500 francs because it was fake. And that's how the story ends. Can you believe it? I was like, oh my gosh, I wonder what she thinks. But it's so Jupiter, Mercury, because it's like this wide, large expanse of time over a long period of time. Someone sees something as being one way, and then in a moment, everything gets flipped on its head. And I presume that moment that everything gets flipped on its head is painful. It's either painful or it's beautiful and blissful, depending on the situation. But that long period of time remains the same. And in that it's always a long period of time. But in that long period of time, the protagonist changes and develops as an individual. Maybe it looks like they've lost out when they've really gained the world. Potentially. You know, if she used that, and I think she kind of did, she was able to let go of this dream and become more real. Instead of coveting things, she got into the role, playing the part of every woman, instead of just wanting to be that woman, the one royal woman, who is the main character in her mind of everything that's good in life. She became the very opposite, the every woman. Instead of being able to be very beautiful and increasing her station in life, she fell a few rungs for 10 years. But it's good because she and her husband, they cooperated with each other. He never held it against her. They didn't say anything necessarily about how the marriage was going, but they were a team, a partnership. And she didn't have time for these fanciful daydreams of saying, oh, it's not fair, I don't have enough. Instead, she was focused on giving, generating enough, right? To pay back what she owes. So it's very Jupiter, Mercury. fortunes flipping on a dime, and then the person kind of being thrown into, totally engulfed and merged into, very Jupiterian, this ocean, this world that is so different from wherever it was that they were previously in that journey. When they come out the other side, they're a changed person, completely different and new and unique. And it's like, and then in a very mercurial kind of way, the fortunes flipped all of a sudden, saying, oh, actually, that's not what was happening. But that's only the real aspect. In terms of the reality, that's not what was happening. It's not that it was a $40,000 necklace. It was only $500. In reality, her friend that she sees as being this fanciful lady isn't actually all that fanciful if she's, getting a necklace that's fake, right? Which is okay. That's fine. It's like the woman was projecting these fantastical ideas, Jupiter, and not actually seeing the reality. So the woman's now saying, hey, this is the reality. This is the mercurial aspect. But Jupiter and Mercury work together in harmony to teach her something, to help her experientially understand a deeper truth, something deeper than the reality. And then that rose to the top. The reality rose to the top, and the truth rose to the top, and we see, how she made out at the end of the day. I just found that interesting. If you ever want to see a film that kind of speaks about this Jupiter-Mercury quality, watch that Lindsay Lohan film on Netflix. Oh, what is it called? I don't know, Luck of the Irish or something. It's like a play on words, something like that. It has that same energy. So, anyways, this is all interesting to me. I don't have to be afraid of needing to rejuvenate myself. I don't have to be afraid of the fact that I'm someone who can't just keep going. I need rest. I'm not someone who can just work a 40-hour week and be okay. Maybe eventually I will be fine, But right now I'm not, and that's okay. I need to take time to take care of myself. And when I do that, I function better. I have a better mood. I'm nicer and kinder internally. And I can do better work. So if I have to tell people that it's going to take longer, it's going to take longer, and that's okay. If I myself have to take longer in doing something, that's okay. And if I need to rest, that's okay too. Okay too. K2. I have Saturn conjunct the South Node in Aries. I wonder if that has anything to do with it. Well, Saturn squaring Jupiter we discussed as well. Yes, thank you.